Hi there, and a very warm welcome back to my shop and the P-26 build. We are in the home stretch. Now, I have quite the update for you. Um, I do want to first talk a little bit about every single project that I do. Uh, that's a significant project. I bleed. I cut myself somehow. So if you feel like you're a little bit stumbling, you're not alone. Yeah, I cut the tip of my thumb yesterday on a piece of metal, and I'll show you the metal. I mean, this spring steel is sharp stuff when you cut it. Sharp stuff is sharp. Who'd have thought, right? Anyway, so I share that with you just because it's a part of the build, right? Have band-aids on hand. This particular spot where it was and what I was doing, a band-aid was not really the best option, so I just sort of bled it out. And then I washed it out a lot. Okay. All right, so let's turn you around, show you the big update. And here she is. All right. What are we looking at? We are looking at a lot of metalwork. Yeah, it's been a labor of love. Okay, so first and foremost, the look is nearing completion. I have done a clear coat, a matte clear coat on everything at this point. I had to take apart a lot, including the whole front end, clear coated the cowl on its own, and then clear coated the fuselage, took off the hatch and masked everything off there, as well as removed the wings. Wings I had to clear coat before I could start epoxying in the metal ends. So I have used these pieces where I've taken a clevis or a quick link, and cut it off. All right, I cut it off and I used a piece of a coping saw blade, took a coping saw blade and cut the ends off. And yeah, this end I tapered just a little bit and used that to create a slot for this to go into. And then I filled this when I put some epoxy on the piece of metal. I put a little hardwood sliver in here to key it and press it up against here. All right, so that's how it's terminated in the wing. And I wanted to do it that way because I wanted to keep this pretty clean. I had thought about using turnbuckles on every one of these, and after putting turnbuckles on the bottom, that was going to be way too cluttered and not scale. So I did it this way, and I really am pleased with the look. Some fine tuning still needs to be done. I need to get my needle nose pliers in here and try to bend these down a little bit. As you can see, there's a little bit of bowing up here at the top because of the angle, and I can certainly tighten these up. I've got plenty of threads left for engagement to do that adjustment. So I can fine tune that. The bottom side has some of the same kind of things. Some of it you can't get away with because of the approach angle of these pieces of G10. And so that is the way it's going to be, but I am really pleased with how everything turned out. We've got nice tight wires. Nice tight wires. Now, previously I talked about prepping these wires and removing that blue look to them using steel wool. Yeah, that was never going to happen. Okay, I had to use 120 grit sandpaper first, and that like really scoured it off. I tried using 220, but that just sort of clogged up the 220. So I went back after the 120, hit it with 220 to make it look really, really fine. So it didn't look like it was gouged, right? So that's what I had to do there. Other than that, the silver solder technique worked quite nicely. I'm very, very pleased with it. I had a couple of joints that were weak as I did the assembly where they broke, and I realized what I had done wrong. So yeah, learning curve. That's the whole point of this model, right? Is to learn how to do this particular technique for the Weddell Williams Model 44, right? All right, so what's left? So I'll leave a link here for a previous episode that I've done where I talk about javelins. And javelins are a scale detail that sort of it connects the wires together, right? It'll help reduce some of these vibrations. At least that's what it's intended to do on the full scale. The speeds that we're going to be going, probably not going to be an issue, but it's again that layer of depth in the model that's going to help bring out, accentuate these lines, particularly when it's at a distance or in the air flying. So there's one that goes across all three, and then there's another one that goes across just the two, and then I can dial in the tension and get that all finalized. And then the other thing I need to do is a sighting tube on top of the hatch for aiming the guns. Again, the guns are very small detail right here. Easy to miss. Okay, so then other than that, I need to finish the installation of the receiver on the inside as well as do a center of gravity check. You guys know me, I almost never check the weight. But after the center of gravity check, I do kind of, I'm curious about the weight. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's heavier than I intended it to be, but kind of don't care. There's plenty of wing area here and I have plenty of power. This motor should be good for at least 2 kilowatts. So I'm not worried at all. I think the motor's actually rated up to 2,500 or 2,300. Anyway, there's plenty of small things left to do, but how am I going to do those javelins? I've got a plan. So over here, you can see I've cleaned up a bit. Still need to do some wiping and vacuuming, but nevertheless, we've got some styrene tubing, some polystyrene tubing. See? Polystyrene. And Evergreen Scale Models is really great for this. You can order their stuff online, but I like to support my local hobby shop. I've got a Hobbytown USA. Made in USA, so great stuff, homegrown. And the way that I'm going to accomplish this is a little bit funny in that I have to create 2 halves. The way these javelins are situated on the wires, it's almost a sandwich where they squeeze between the wires like this, okay? So you have a top half and a bottom half, and then the half rounds essentially get screwed together. Not quite sure how I'm going to do that just yet. Working on it. Likely to be really small screws. But these particular tubes are roughly 7 millimeters, 9/32 in diameter, but I can split these in half easily. I've got a really fun tool that I 3D printed a while ago where I've got a razor blade, and it's designed for using triangle stock, but I can certainly get a tube to fit through that square and split it in half. All right, so that's the plan. I hope you guys can appreciate that all these little details, they do take time, they take some forethought, and so when I'm not modeling here in the shop, I am thinking about how to do some of this stuff. And honestly, I have a great club that I belong to, actually 2 now, but I was at my local club this morning in the freezing cold, bouncing the ideas off of them, and likely I am overthinking these javelins, but nevertheless, I do want to get them so that I want to build them once. I don't want to build them to fall apart. But that is unfortunately a risk, right? These small details, when you get thin, things get soft and brittle, and I don't want to do like metal tubing. That would be way overkill. Yeah, so bear with me. I'm going on a journey here. But yeah, if you guys really want to get into some of this detail stuff, head on over to Dubro. They have some really great hardware that you can use your imagination to put things together, right? And that's really all this is. Let me show you what I mean. So aside from the blue steel, spring steel, we've got the little pieces of the quick links that are epoxied into the wing. And up here, we've got the same quick links, Clevix things, but you've also got another end in the fuselage. But this has some 440 threaded rod that is threaded into this link, along with the jam nut that helps prevent rotation. And then from there, it's just soldering both ends like I've outlined before. And so there's a lot of these, okay? A lot of these, and I appreciate Dubro very, very much for supporting this build. So if you have a chance and you would like to take a look at what they have thousands of parts and pieces that you can do things with. Head over there, explore, let your imagination run a little bit, and try to really add some really fun details to your flying works of art.